So today I wanted to show you how to create this beautiful wedding table design. I found this beautiful tablescape created by Chic Events, who's a wedding planner in Paris, Provence and the French Riviera. And so I'm going to take inspiration from her design and show you how to create a digital illustration of this tablescape. So first of all, I've created a canvas within Procreate that's a screen-sized canvas. And the first thing I'm going to do is upload some reference photos that I can refer back to as we create the design. So I'm going to tap on this wrench icon and select add. And if I swipe left on insert a photo, it inserts a private photo, and that just means it won't show up when you create a hyperlapse video. So here's one. I'm just going to resize that and move it to the top left. And I'm going to do the same with the other two reference images that I've downloaded. And I'm going to quickly group these together in a group called reference. And another quick trick I'm going to show you is within my color palette menu, I'm going to select add and I'm going to select new from photos. And let's go and select a photo that contains a lot of the colors we're going to use. And what this does, it uploads and converts all of the color pixels from that image into this color palette here. So as we're working on creating our illustration, we can just reference a lot of these colors that have been pulled out from the image here. So let's create a new layer. And the first thing I'm going to do is work on creating this kind of cane back chair with this lovely sage seat pad. So on a new layer, I'm going to go and select my table and chairs brush set. And I'm going to go and locate the chair that's closest to what we see here. So I'm going to go for the King Louis chair that has its back facing us. And then I'm going to select one of the colours from this colour palette that would act as the outline of this chair. So I'm going to select that colour. And don't worry, we can change this later if we want to. So I'm going to stamp that on the screen. So at this point I'm going to change the background colour. I'm going to duplicate our chair outline and I'm going to take a pure white colour and drop it into this outline. I'm going to add a layer above, set it as a clipping mask, and now using my basic watercolour brush, I can select a colour of the chair either from this palette, or I can go and select directly from the image. First thing I'm going to do is go all over just to add a single layer of colour. And then I'm going to select a darker version of that colour by moving my stylus down the screen here. And with a smaller brush size, I'm going to come into the left-hand side of these areas, and anywhere I think there might be more shadows, just add that darker colour. And obviously I'm showing you a very quick version of how to do this, but the more time you spend and the more layers you build up, the more realistic your illustration is going to look. But it's just as important to be able to put together really quick illustrations of ideas you have or kind of concepts you want to record. I'm going to pick a lighter shade of this colour. I'm just going to come in on more of the right hand side and the top edges where our light source, which we're going to assume is at the top right here, will be bouncing off this surface. Now I'm going to take our wet smudge brush from our basics brush set, and I'm just going to come in and blend those together, working within the shape of the outline. So never working up and down like this. Follow those outlines just to build up realism in your artwork. Okay, and then one more piece of detail. I'm going to select a brush from our textures brush set, just this brush number 10. I'm going to select an orange tone from that image. I'm going to create this on a new layer in a large size and a lower opacity. I'm just going to cover the shape of that chair. I'm actually going to rotate this shape so that the texture is moving vertically. And then I'm going to come in with my round eraser brush. I'm just going to erase that texture where I don't need it. And I'm going to lower the opacity just to make that a finer texture. And I'm going to come and just play with the adjustments on our colour layer to make this look as close as we can to this image. I'm going to select, holding 2 fingers down on our outline layer, select colour fill, and I want to lighten up this outline layer slightly, something around there. I'm going to add another darker layer to the left hand side of this outline. And this is an example of how you can start building up the realism in your illustrations. And so feel free to spend some time adding these layers. And again, we're going to come back in here and smudge those darker colours we've just added so they blend nicely with the layers beneath it. Okay, so there's a really quick example of how you can create the wood texture on that chair. And now what I'm going to do is create this seat pad. So I'm going to merge down that texture layer because I'm happy with that now. I'll take my eraser brush on that clipping layer and I'm going to erase the area we know is going to be the seat pad. I'm going to add a new layer, set it as a clipping mask, and now we can add with our watercolour brush this lovely sage green to the seat pad. And although it's set as a clipping mask, do remember we are doing multiple clipping masks here, so if I do make this colour move into this wooden area, it will drag through. And because this chair is made up of these kind of 3 components, the wooden outline, the seat pad, and then we're going to do this came back area, we are going to have 3 different clipping masks. And then just come in here and gently smudge that green onto that chair pad. And now I'm going to select a slightly lighter version of that, and I'm just going to bring it into areas I know will be lighter. So really anything on the right and top surfaces. And again, just blend those in. And then selecting a darker colour. Let's just add that to the back side and the left side of that seat pad, and then again blend that in. And I can make an adjustment to this layer if I feel like I've made it too dark. And so I'm happy with this as it is right now. What I'm going to do is merge these all into one layer just so I can save my layers. And you only ever do this once you know that you're really happy with what you've created, because it's hard now to go and make any edits to single areas or the textures. And now what I'm going to do with my selection tool, I'm going to unselect color fill and I'm going to select freehand. I'm going to go in and select the inner area of this chair back. I'm going to take my eraser brush, the shading brush from the basic brush set, and then to give this effect that this is kind of a see-through area, what I'm going to do first of all is actually take that watercolor brush and just do a couple of quick erasers over that, and you can start to see that green of the background starting to come through. And now taking that shading brush, I'm going to move up and down and then across this area. Ensure I've got the right brush size. It might take a few times to get this right, and if you can at this point, it's probably good to turn your iPad. I'm going to try and do this freehand. I'm just going to move up and down, leaving some of that brown colour. And then again, let's move across the screen. Okay, so there is a very quick chair that we can then resize and move in front of this table. For now, I'm going to turn off that layer. I'm going to add a new layer, and let's just create a white tablecloth. So I'm going to select white for the outline. I'm going to go into my table and chairs brush set, and let's go select the white tablecloth. I'm going to tap on the screen, and as we did before, I'm going to duplicate that layer, drop white into the shape. If white does drop into the whole of the screen, just keep your stylus on the screen here and reduce that colour drop threshold. I'm going to add a layer above, set it as my clipping mask, and then on that colour fill layer, I'm just going to lower the opacity so I can see these lines showing through. Back to our trusty watercolour brush. Just select a darker colour, maybe a grey. This way you can add in any hints of colour that you like. I'm going to just work with a white tablecloth in this design. Put the opacity back up now I've found the edges. And just build up a few layers, and then we take our smudge brush and you just want to go in and blend those shadows in to the white, and then you can either hide the outline layer or just reduce the opacity so it's not so defined. And once you're happy with that, you can reduce those into one layer. And we're going to resize this table so we can fit 3 chairs either side. So let's place that there. Let's go and turn on that chair. Select it, and using the freeform tool, we're going to move it and sit it directly in the center here. Just play around with the location and the dimensions of what you've created. So let's place those 3 chairs there. Again, I'm going to reduce those into one layer. I'm going to duplicate that layer and place a layer below our table linen. I'm just going to resize and place those on the other side of that table.